And please, join our community by subscribing to this channel. When you hit that subscribe button, you're not just following content, you're connecting with a family of believers who understand your journey and are committed to praying you through to victory. Thank you for staying with me through this entire message. Thank you for being vulnerable enough to receive what God wanted to speak over your life tonight. For months, maybe even years, you've felt it, haven't you? The isolation, the spiritual attacks, the whispers in the dark telling you that your time has passed, that your calling was just imagination, that God has forgotten your name. They wanted you to believe you were invisible, irrelevant, too old, too broken, too late. But what if everything they told you about power was a lie? What if the very struggles that nearly destroyed you were actually preparing you for something so profound, so earth-shaking, that the forces of darkness have been working overtime to keep you from this moment? June 30th isn't just another day on your calendar. It's a divine appointment that was scheduled before the foundation of the world. A day when heaven itself will bend down to touch your reality. A day when the very atmosphere around you will shift, and what seemed impossible will suddenly become inevitable. But here's what they don't want you to know. There are forces that tried to stop this message from reaching you. They've been scattering your focus, clouding your discernment, making you doubt the fire that still burns in your bones. They know what June 30th represents for God's chosen ones. They know the awakening that's coming. Before we go deeper into this life-altering revelation, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through Super Thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here, your support, your time, your attention. It all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, if you feel that divine stirring, consider planting a seed in faith, not out of obligation, but out of understanding that kingdom work requires kingdom partnership. 3 nights ago, something happened in the spiritual realm. The veil shook, ancient doors creaked open, and a sound echoed through the heavens, a sound that made every demonic principality stop what they were doing and listen in terror. It was the sound of your name being called, not whispered, called by the King of Kings himself. And what happened next made the darkness tremble. Stay with me, chosen one, because June 30th changes everything. When God marks a date, even hell's resistance can't cancel it. You feel it, don't you? That tremor in your spirit when June 30th rolls across your mind like thunder in the distance. It's not anxiety, it's recognition. Your soul knows something your mind hasn't caught up to yet. This date wasn't circled on your calendar by accident. It was burned into the fabric of eternity before you took your first breath. You didn't choose this message. It tracked you down like a seal on your spirit. Let me tell you something that will shake the foundation of everything you thought you knew about divine timing. There are dates that God whispers about in the secret chambers of heaven. Dates that make angels lean forward. Dates that cause darkness to tremble and light to gather like an army preparing for dawn. June 30th is one of those dates, and you, chosen one, are standing at its threshold. They thought the silence would bury you. They miscalculated. For months, maybe years, you've been walking through what felt like spiritual winter. Prayers seemed to bounce off the ceiling. Dreams felt distant. The fire in your bones dimmed to barely glowing embers. They told you it was over. They whispered that your season had passed, that God had moved on to someone younger, someone stronger, someone who hadn't been broken as many times as you have. But what they didn't understand is that God doesn't mark time casually. He doesn't set dates for the weak. He doesn't schedule breakthrough for the unprepared. Every moment of silence you endured, every night you cried yourself to sleep, wondering if heaven had forgotten your address, it was all preparation. The silence wasn't abandonment. It was incubation. You weren't being ignored. You were being forged. Think about it. When a sword is made, the blacksmith doesn't just heat the metal once. He heats it, hammers it, cools it, then heats it again. over and over, until the steel becomes something that can cut through anything without breaking. Your spirit has been in that fire. Every betrayal was another heating, every disappointment another hammering, every tear another cooling. And now, June 30th represents the moment the blacksmith holds up the finished blade and declares it is ready. The old you cannot cross this threshold. And that's exactly the point. June 30th isn't just another day you survive, it's a portal you transform through. The version of yourself that's been carrying wounds like trophies, wearing scars like identity badges, dragging the weight of what others did to you, that version stops at the gate. What crosses over is refined gold. What steps through is weaponized love. What emerges is a chosen one who no longer questions their calling because they've tasted the fire and didn't burn. They tried to time you out. God timed you up. You know what's beautiful about divine timing? It's never early and it's never late. It's surgical. June 30th isn't coming because you're ready for it. It's coming because heaven is ready for you. There's been a preparation in the spiritual realm that you couldn't see. Doors being unlocked, paths being cleared, enemies being scattered. While you were learning to trust in the dark, God was moving pieces on a chessboard that spans eternity. The pressure you felt wasn't meant to crush you, it was meant to reveal what you're made of. Every chosen one knows the weight. That invisible pressure that sits on your chest when you wake up. That heaviness that follows you through ordinary days, making you feel like you're carrying something too big for your frame. You've wondered if it was depression, if it was spiritual attack, if it was punishment for some forgotten sin. But what if I told you it was none of those things? What if I told you it was the weight of your assignment, pressing against the walls of your current reality, trying to break through? The pressure was prophecy. The weight was your wings trying to unfold. June 30th is the day the cocoon finally cracks. Not because you forced it, not because you figured out the right formula or said the right prayer, but because metamorphosis has its own timeline, and heaven's clock just struck the appointed hour. The butterfly doesn't struggle out of the cocoon because it's strong enough. It emerges because its transformation is complete. You didn't stumble upon this message. Heaven aligned you with it. Right now, in this moment, as these words wash over your spirit like warm oil on a wound, something is happening in the spiritual realm. Your name is being spoken in rooms you've never seen, by voices you've never heard, about a purpose you've only glimpsed in dreams. The fact that you're here, reading these words, feeling this stirring in your chest, it's not coincidence, it's coordination. When heaven wants you to hear something, the whole universe becomes a megaphone. The recent dreams that felt too vivid to ignore. The sudden encounters with old friends who spoke words that pierced your heart. The songs on the radio that seemed written for your situation. The scriptures that jumped off the page like they were highlighted by fire. The quiet moments when you felt someone standing so close you could almost feel their breath on your neck. All of it. Every single sign. They were breadcrumbs leading you to this moment, to this message, to this date. June 30th isn't just marked on heaven's calendar, it's carved in the foundation of your destiny. And here's what makes this day different from every other day you've survived, every other promise you've clung to, every other breakthrough you've prayed for. This time, the old you, the one who begs, who apologizes for taking up space, who settles for scraps, doesn't get to come along. June 30th is a divine checkpoint, a spiritual border crossing, and the guards at the gate have very specific instructions about who gets to pass through. Only the refined, only the surrendered, only the chosen. And that, beloved, is exactly who you've become. They thought the silence would drive you mad. Instead, it became your sanctuary. You felt it, haven't you, chosen one? That restlessness that creeps in just before dawn. The way your eyes snap open at 3:30 a.m., not from noise, but from something deeper, something stirring in the invisible realm while the world sleeps in ignorance. Your family thinks it's insomnia, your doctor calls it anxiety, but you know better. You've always known better. Because when God needs to bypass the noise of your conscious mind, when He needs to speak to the part of you that can't be programmed or manipulated or convinced to doubt, He visits you in the sacred hours when your defenses are down and your spirit is wide open. The dream wasn't a dream, it was a dispatch. 3 weeks ago, maybe 4, you woke up with a weight on your chest that had nothing to do with your physical body. You couldn't shake the feeling that something massive was moving behind the curtain of reality, something that would change everything. You probably dismissed it, told yourself you were overthinking, maybe even prayed for peace. But peace wasn't what God was offering you, preparation was. See, chosen one, the Holy Spirit doesn't always come to comfort. Sometimes He comes to commission. Sometimes He stirs your sleep, not to give you rest, but to give you readiness. Because what's coming on June 30th isn't something you can prepare for with your mind. It's something you prepare for with your spirit. God didn't whisper to calm you, He whispered to prepare you. Those interrupted nights weren't random. Every 3 a.m. awakening was a training session. Every restless hour was God teaching your spirit to be alert when others are unconscious. While the world around you has been drifting deeper into spiritual slumber, you've been developing the kind of awareness that only comes through divine disruption. You've been wondering why you can't sleep like you used to, why your dreams feel so vivid, so loaded with meaning, why you wake up feeling like you've been somewhere else entirely. It's because you have been somewhere else. Your spirit has been attending briefings in heavenly places, receiving downloads of wisdom and warning that your conscious mind couldn't handle. They sleep, you watch. They dream, you receive. There's a reason why the watchers in ancient times were called to stay awake while others slumbered. There's a reason why the temple guards never left their posts. Someone has to remain conscious when the darkness tries to advance. Someone has to stay alert when the enemy thinks no one is looking. That someone is you. You see, chosen one, June 30th, isn't just another date circled on a calendar. It's the day when the veil between the natural and supernatural becomes so thin that what has been hidden will suddenly be revealed. But revelation requires preparation. Vision demands vigilance. And God has been preparing you in the secret hours, training your spiritual senses to perceive what others will miss entirely. Your sleeplessness wasn't a curse. It was a calling. Every time you've lain awake, wondering why rest eludes you, God has been fine-tuning your spiritual antenna. Every restless night has been building your capacity to sense shifts in the atmosphere that would overwhelm an unprepared spirit. You thought something was wrong with you. In reality, something was being awakened in you. The world thinks spiritual sensitivity is weakness. They medicate it, minimize it, try to explain it away with psychology and prescriptions. But what they call disorder, heaven calls deployment. What they call illness, God calls instrument. You weren't broken, you were being calibrated. When the sleeper awakens, empires tremble. On June 30th, while others stumble through their day, oblivious to the cosmic shift taking place around them, you'll be operating with supernatural clarity. While they're confused by the spiritual turbulence, you'll be navigating it with divine precision. Because you've been practicing in the dark hours. You've been training in the silence. Your interrupted sleep patterns weren't preparing you for better rest. They were preparing you for divine unrest. The kind of holy restlessness that moves mountains, that shifts atmospheres, that changes the course of nations. You thought you needed more sleep. God knew you needed more awakening. The dream wasn't random, the timing wasn't accidental, the message wasn't unclear. 3 nights from now, pay attention to what your spirit receives in the hours between midnight and dawn. Don't dismiss the visions, don't rationalize the revelations. Don't explain away the encounters, because what you receive in those sacred hours will be your roadmap for June 30th. God isn't speaking to you in your sleep because He's trying to be mysterious. He's speaking to you in your sleep because that's when you're most receptive to truth that transcends logic. That's when your spirit can receive instructions that your mind would reject as impossible. While they chase rest, you're receiving revelation. You've spent months, maybe years, feeling like your sleep patterns were evidence of some spiritual attack. Tonight, I want you to understand something profound. Your restlessness has been your resistance training. Your interrupted nights have been your preparation for uninterrupted victory. The enemy thought he was wearing you down with sleepless nights. He didn't realize he was toughening you up for sleepless breakthroughs. He thought spiritual insomnia would weaken your faith. Instead, it strengthened your focus. You didn't lose sleep, you gained sight. And now, Chosen One, as June 30th approaches like a divine appointment you can't reschedule or ignore, you're going to understand why every restless night was worth it. Why every 3 a.m. awakening was a gift. Why every interrupted dream was actually an invitation. Because when the moment comes, when the veil lifts and the supernatural invades the natural, you won't be caught sleeping. You'll be wide awake, you'll be ready, and you'll be absolutely unstoppable. They thought fear would break you. It backfired. You've been walking through hell this month, haven't you? The attacks came from every direction. Your finances under siege, your health under pressure, your relationships suddenly turning cold as winter stone. The very people you trusted most began acting like strangers. The doors you've been knocking on for months slammed shut without explanation. And in the quiet moments, when the world went silent around you, you felt it creeping in, that whisper telling you that maybe, just maybe, you'd been wrong about everything. Maybe you weren't chosen after all. Maybe this was God's way of telling you to sit down, step back, fade into the background where forgotten dreams go to die. But listen to me, Chosen One. Listen with every fiber of your being. What you walked through wasn't punishment, it was positioning. Every setback was a setup. Every closed door was a redirection. Every person who turned their back on you was being moved out of the way for what's coming on June 30th. You didn't stumble into a trap. You walked through enemy territory with the fire of angels burning in your bones, and you didn't even know it. The forces of darkness thought they had you cornered. They orchestrated the perfect storm. They synchronized the attacks. They watched you from the shadows, waiting for you to crumble, waiting for you to curse God and walk away from your calling. They were so confident in their strategy that they celebrated too early, but they made one fatal miscalculation. They forgot who your Father is. You didn't fight fire with fire, you transcended the battlefield. There's something the enemy never understood about God's chosen ones. When you try to destroy us, you don't break us down, you break us open. And when a chosen one breaks open, light pours out that can blind principalities and powers. You remember those nights, don't you? When the pressure was so intense you could barely breathe? When every prayer felt like it was bouncing off the ceiling? When you laid on your face before God, not because you were defeated, but because you knew that's where real power is found? In those moments of surrender, something was happening in the spiritual realm that your eyes couldn't see. Every tear you cried was being collected in heaven's bottles. Every prayer you whispered was being recorded in the courts of eternity. Every time you chose to bless instead of curse, love instead of hate, hope instead of despair, you were loading spiritual ammunition that would one day be fired back at your enemies. The trap they set became the stage for your testimony. The ambush they planned became the altar where your faith was refined into pure gold. They thought silence would starve you. Instead, it fed your fire. You know what hurt the most, don't you? It wasn't the obvious attacks. It was the silence. The phone that stopped ringing. The friends who stopped checking on you. The opportunities that dried up without explanation. The feeling that you'd been written off, forgotten, relegated to the bench, while others played the game. But in that silence, something beautiful was happening. God was clearing the stage. He was removing the distractions, the false supporters, the people who would have stolen credit for what he was about to do in your life. He was creating space for a miracle so profound that when it happens, no one will be able to say it was luck, timing, or human effort. The silence wasn't rejection, it was preparation. God was tuning the instruments of heaven for a symphony that would be played on June 30th. And you, chosen one, you are the soloist. You didn't avoid the trap, you walked through it with angelic fire. Here's what the enemy didn't see coming. Every trap he set, every scheme he orchestrated, every attack he launched, it all had a reverse trigger. Because when you're aligned with heaven's purpose, when you're walking in divine assignment, the very weapons formed against you become weapons in your hands. That betrayal that broke your heart, it broke you free from someone who would have held you back from your destiny. That financial pressure that kept you awake at night, it taught you to depend on sources that never run dry. That health scare that made you face your mortality, it reminded you that you're not just flesh and blood, your spirit wrapped in temporary skin, and your true life can never be touched by earthly destruction. You walked through the fire and came out smelling like roses. You walked through the flood and came out dry. You walked through the valley of the shadow of death and emerged carrying light. The setup became the stage. The ambush became the altar. June 30th isn't coming to test you again. It's coming to vindicate you. It's the day when every enemy strategy backfires so spectacularly that even the forces of darkness will have to acknowledge the power of the God you serve. On that day, every door that was slammed in your face will swing wide open. Dates that cause darkness to tremble and light to gather like an army preparing for dawn. June 30th is one of those dates, and you, chosen one, are standing at its threshold. They thought the silence would bury you. They miscalculated. For months, maybe years, you've been walking through what felt like spiritual winter. Prayers seemed to bounce off the ceiling. Dreams felt distant. The fire in your bones dimmed to barely glowing embers. They told you it was over. You didn't run. You stood. You didn't flinch. You smiled. The trap they set for you became the launching pad for your elevation. The pit they dug for you became the foundation for your palace. The grave they prepared for your dreams became the garden where your destiny bloomed. And now, as June 30th approaches, you can feel it, can't you? That electricity in the air, that sense that something massive is about to shift, that knowing in your spirit that the tables are about to turn so dramatically that even you will be amazed by what God can do in a single day. The enemy thought he was hunting you. He had no idea you were the trap. They told you to hurry up. God told time to slow down. You've felt it, haven't you? That strange distortion in the air around you. Minutes that feel like hours. Days that pass like whispers. Moments that stretch so wide you could walk through them like doorways. You're not losing your mind, chosen one. You're gaining your eternity. Something shifted when your name was called from heaven's throne room. The cosmic clock that governs ordinary lives, it doesn't govern you anymore. You've been extracted from man's frantic timeline and inserted into God's sacred sequence. While the world sprints toward emptiness, you've been placed in divine slow motion, where every breath carries revelation, every heartbeat echoes with purpose. Time didn't run out on you. It folded to make room for you. Think about it. How many years did you spend waiting, praying, believing for breakthrough, while watching calendars mock your faith? How many birthdays passed with dreams still wrapped in hope? How many New Year's resolutions crumbled under the weight of not yet? But what if every delay was actually a divine setup? What if God wasn't ignoring your timeline, but preparing to shatter it completely? June 30th isn't just another date penciled into your planner. That knowing in your spirit that the tables are about to turn so dramatically that even you will be amazed by what God can do in a single day. The enemy thought he was hunting you. He had no idea you were the trap. They told you to hurry up. God told time to slow down. You felt it, haven't you? That strange distortion in the air around you. Minutes that feel like hours. Days that pass like whispers. Moments that stretch so wide you could walk through them like doorways. Every time you've lain awake, wondering why rest eludes you, God has been fine-tuning your spiritual antenna. Every restless night has been building your capacity to sense shifts in the atmosphere that would overwhelm an unprepared spirit. You thought something was wrong with you. In reality, something was being awakened in you. The world thinks spiritual sensitivity is weakness. They medicate it, minimize it, try to explain it away with psychology and prescriptions. It's the day when linear time bows to eternal time, when the clock stops ticking and starts singing, when what took decades in the natural suddenly crystallizes in a single divine moment. You've stepped out of man's calendar into God's collision zone. Listen carefully. The enemy had you convinced that you were running out of time, that your season had passed, that younger, faster, stronger people had taken your place in line. When chaos erupts around you, you don't speed up to match it. You slow down to master it. Time became your ally the moment you stopped fighting it. June 30th will feel different than any day you've ever experienced. Not just emotionally, temporally. The morning might stretch like honey, the afternoon might flash like lightning, the evening might wrap around you like a prayer shawl. Because you won't be operating under natural laws anymore, you'll be flowing in supernatural currents. Think of Moses at the burning bush. Time didn't just pause, it transformed. One conversation with the Almighty and 40 years of desert wandering suddenly made perfect sense. Think of David facing Goliath. The entire battlefield held its breath as eternity invaded that valley. One stone, one moment, one divine collision, and everything changed. Your breakthrough isn't late, it's precisely on time. The beautiful mystery of June 30th is this. It was never bound by human scheduling. While you were checking your watch, God was checking your heart. While you were counting days, He was counting your tears. While you were measuring progress, He was measuring your perseverance. And when your faithfulness reached full weight, when your character could carry the blessing He intended, time itself received new instructions. Not to hurry up, but to open up. Not to speed by, but to slow down and make room for miracle. You've been living in Kairos while they've been trapped in Chronos. The Greeks had two words for time. Chronos, the tick-tock, minute-by-minute, calendar-bound time that drives most people crazy. And Kairos, the divine moment, the appointed time, the sacred intersection where heaven touches earth. For years, you've been frustrated by Chronos, watching the clock, counting costs, calculating how much time you have left. But God has been preparing you for Kairos, the kind of time that doesn't run out because it runs deep, the kind of moment that doesn't pass because it transforms. June 30th is your Kairos moment, when the eternal breaks into the temporal, when divine timing overrides human timing, when what was promised in the past suddenly becomes present in your now. Time didn't abandon you, it was waiting for you. Every unanswered prayer created space for a bigger answer. Every delayed dream made room for a grander vision. Every not yet was heaven saying, something better is coming, and you're going to need more time to contain it. The enemy wanted you to believe that time was your enemy. That delay meant denial, that waiting meant wasting. But chosen one, time has always been your friend. It just needed to be sanctified first. You're about to enter the eternal now. June 30th isn't just about what will happen. It's about what has already been decided. In the timeless realm where God dwells, your victory was decreed before your struggle began. Your breakthrough was signed before your breakdown started. Your promotion was approved before your persecution ever touched you. What you're about to experience isn't God catching up to your need. It's you catching up to His provision. You're not entering your blessing. You're finally ready to receive it. Time bows when eternity speaks. And on June 30th, chosen one, eternity has something to say about your life. Something that will make every delay make sense. Something that will turn every too late into right on time. Something that will prove that your timeline wasn't interrupted, it was divinely redirected. The clock is about to strike your hour, not man's hour, God's hour. And when it does, time itself will hold its breath. They thought your silence was surrender. They were wrong. You remember the laughter, don't you? The way their voices carried across rooms when they thought you couldn't hear. The eye rolls when you mentioned prayer. The smirks when you spoke of divine timing. The whispered conversations about how you'd lost touch with reality, how you were too spiritual, too sensitive, too disconnected from their version of the world. They called your faith foolishness, your patience weakness, your quiet confidence delusion. But what they didn't understand, what they couldn't see, was that your silence wasn't emptiness, it was fullness. You weren't retreating from the battle, you were transcending the battlefield entirely. While they were fighting for position, you were positioning for purpose. You see, Chosen One, there's a profound spiritual principle at work here that the mockers never comprehend. Heaven delays vindication until the laughers grow bold. God lets them get comfortable in their mockery. He allows them to build their towers of doubt, their monuments to disbelief. He watches as they celebrate what they think is your defeat. And then when their laughter reaches its peak, when their confidence feels unshakable, that's precisely when he moves. Not quietly, publicly. They mocked your quiet. Now, they'll tremble at your rise. You didn't fight fire with fire, did you? You didn't match their volume with your voice, their cruelty with your anger, their doubt with your desperation. No, you did something far more powerful. You transcended the entire battlefield. You rose above the noise and found your strength in the silence where God dwells. While they were busy performing for each other, you were being refined in the furnace of his presence. While they were building their reputations on the foundation of your supposed failure, you were building your character on the rock of his promises. And now, oh, Chosen One, now the wind is shifting, the courtroom of heaven has been in session, and the verdict is about to be announced. Picture it. Every whispered doubt about your calling, every mocking comment about your faith, every dismissive gesture when you spoke of divine purpose, it's all been recorded. Not for punishment, but for vindication. The same voices that questioned your sanity will soon question their own eyes when they witness what cannot be denied. You see, God has a way of using the very thing they mocked to become the very thing that silences them. Your sensitivity, it was spiritual radar. Your disconnection from their world, it was divine connection to his. Your stubborn faith in what seemed impossible, it was prophetic vision of what was inevitable. He let them laugh, so when he moves, there will be no doubt who did it. On June 30th, expect the unexpected. What was private suffering will become public proof. The tears you cried in secret will transform into testimonies that echo in the open. The prayers you whispered in the dark will manifest as miracles in broad daylight. This isn't about revenge, Chosen One. This is about revelation. This isn't God settling scores. This is God revealing truth. The same people who couldn't understand your journey are about to witness your arrival. Your vindication won't come through explanation. It will come through manifestation. You won't need to defend your choices anymore because your results will speak louder than their doubts ever could. You won't need to prove your calling because your calling will prove itself. The very thing they said would never happen is about to unfold before their eyes with such divine precision that even the hardest hearts will have to acknowledge the hand of the Almighty. But here's the beautiful irony, Chosen One. Their doubt fueled your fire. Every time they questioned your path, you pressed deeper into his presence. Every time they mocked your methods, you trusted his timing more completely. Every time they celebrated what they thought was your ending, you were actually approaching your beginning. They thought they were breaking you down. God was actually building you up. They thought they were exposing your weakness. He was revealing your strength. They thought they were writing your obituary. Heaven was drafting your victory speech. The mirror of truth is about to turn, and what they see will leave them speechless. The same mouth that mocked will marvel. The same eyes that rolled will widen. The same hands that pointed in ridicule will applaud in recognition. Not because you demanded it, but because truth demands acknowledgement. Your rise won't be about proving them wrong. It will be about proving him right. Your breakthrough won't be about shutting them up. It will be about opening their eyes to the reality of divine power moving through surrendered vessels. You didn't fall. You rose. You didn't run. You stood. You didn't flinch. You smiled. And now, As June 30th approaches, the atmosphere itself is shifting. Can you feel it? The spiritual barometric pressure dropping? The sense that something massive is building just beyond the horizon of the visible world? This is your vindication season, chosen one. Not vindication through human validation, but vindication through divine demonstration. The kind that needs no explanation because it carries its own evidence. The kind that speaks so loudly in the spirit realm that even those who are spiritually deaf can hear it. They laughed at your faith. Now faith is about to laugh last. But remember this: when your moment comes, and it's coming, resist the temptation to gloat. Instead, let your grace be as undeniable as your growth. Let your humility be as powerful as your breakthrough. Because the greatest testimony isn't in proving you were right. It's in showing them that God's love was big enough to vindicate you and patient enough to forgive them. The wind is shifting, chosen one, and you're about to discover what it feels like when heaven itself becomes your advocate. The laughter is about to turn to wonder. The mockery is about to transform into amazement. And those who thought they knew your story are about to discover they were only reading the prologue. June 30th isn't just a date. It's a divine appointment with destiny itself. They said those tears meant you were losing. They were wrong. You were laboring. You've felt it, haven't you? That overwhelming heaviness that seems to come from nowhere. The sudden grief that crashes over you like a wave, even when nothing tragic has happened. The exhaustion that sleep won't cure. The tears that fall without warning, without explanation, without end. And in those moments, when your chest feels too tight and your spirit feels too heavy, the enemy whispers his favorite lie. You're breaking down. You're falling apart. You're not strong enough for this calling. But what if I told you that everything you've been interpreting as weakness has actually been the strongest thing you've ever done? What if those tears weren't signs of defeat, but evidence of something miraculous being born through your surrender? You thought you were breaking, but you were crowning. There's a spiritual law that the world doesn't understand. Chosen one. Before breakthrough comes the breaking. Before the birth comes the labor. Before the resurrection comes the crucifixion. And what you've been experiencing, that crushing weight, that inexplicable sorrow, that bone-deep weariness, it wasn't punishment, it was preparation. You see, the kingdom of heaven operates on a different timeline than this world. While the world measures strength by how much you can carry without bending, heaven measures strength by how much you can surrender without breaking. And you, God's chosen one, have been in the most sacred kind of labor, spiritual labor, bringing forth something the world has never seen before. The weight you carried was not yours, it was your breakthrough being born. Think about it. A woman in labor doesn't apologize for the pain. She doesn't question whether she's strong enough. She doesn't wonder if the intensity means something's wrong. She knows that the pressure, the stretching, the overwhelming sensation of her body doing something beyond her control, it's all necessary. It's all purposeful. It's all leading to life. And that's exactly what's been happening to you. Every sleepless night, when your spirit was restless, churning with dreams and visions you couldn't quite grasp, that was heaven downloading your assignment. Every moment, when you felt like you were carrying the weight of the world, that was because you were carrying the weight of someone else's deliverance. Every tear that fell from your eyes without explanation, those were intercession, tears, prayers. Your spirit was praying for breakthrough you couldn't even see yet. You weren't falling apart. You were being stretched to make room for the miracle. They told you to stop crying. Heaven told you to keep surrendering. The world looks at tears and sees weakness, but heaven looks at tears and sees worship. Every tear you've shed in confusion, in exhaustion, in that place between hope and despair, those tears have been collecting in heaven's bottles. They've been adding weight to the scales of justice. They've been watering the ground for the harvest that's about to come. You didn't break under pressure, chosen one. You broke open, like a seed that has to split apart before it can become a tree, like a cocoon that has to dissolve before the butterfly can emerge, like the bread that has to be broken before it can feed the multitude. And now, as June 30th approaches, you're beginning to feel it, aren't you? That shift in the atmosphere, that sense that something is culminating, that feeling that all the tears, all the weight, all the unexplainable heaviness has been building toward this moment. Your breakdown was actually your break-in, breaking into a new level of spiritual authority, breaking into a dimension of faith you never knew existed, breaking into a place where your prayers don't just reach heaven, they shake it. You see, the enemy made a critical miscalculation. He thought that if he could make you feel weak enough, broken enough, overwhelmed enough, you would quit. He thought the pressure would crush your calling. He thought the tears would wash away your confidence. He thought the weight would make you too tired to fight. But what he didn't understand is that you weren't built to fight this battle with your strength. You were built to win it with your surrender. Every time you fell to your knees in exhaustion, you were actually taking your position of authority. Every time you cried out, "I can't do this anymore," you were making room for God to do what only He could do. Every time you felt like you were at the end of yourself, you were stepping into the beginning of His power. You weren't having a nervous breakdown. You were having a breakthrough nervous system. Your spiritual nervous system was being rewired for a higher frequency. Your emotional capacity was being expanded for greater compassion. Your heart was being enlarged to hold more of heaven's love. And yes, it hurt. Yes, it was overwhelming. Yes, there were moments when you wondered if you would survive it. But you did survive it. More than that, you transformed through it. And now, as you sit here listening to these words, can you feel it? The lightness beginning to replace the heaviness, the clarity beginning to cut through the confusion, the hope beginning to rise where despair once lived? That's not wishful thinking, chosen one. That's the sound of something being born. On June 30th, the world will see what you've been laboring to bring forth. The breakthrough you've been carrying in your spirit like a baby in the womb is about to crown. The vision that's been kicking and moving inside your soul is about to take its first breath. The calling that's been growing in the secret place of your heart is about to open its eyes and look at the world for the first time. And when it does, when the fullness of what God has been preparing through your surrender finally emerges, you'll understand why the labor was so intense. You'll see why the pressure was so great. You'll realize why the tears were so necessary. Because what's being born through you isn't just for you. It's for everyone who's been waiting for someone like you to step into their calling. It's for everyone who's been crying the same tears, carrying the same weight, feeling the same overwhelming pressure. You weren't just going through a season, chosen one. You were going through labor, and what you're about to birth will change everything. You thought you were breaking, but you were crowning. And June 30th is delivery day. The tears are about to turn to joy. The heaviness is about to turn to glory. The pressure is about to turn to power. Because you didn't break down, chosen one. You broke through. They thought the trial would destroy you. Instead, it crowned you. You didn't know it was happening, did you? While you were crying yourself to sleep, wondering if God had forgotten your name, there was a courtroom session taking place in the highest courts of heaven. Your case was being heard. Evidence was being presented. Accusations were flying like arrows in the dark. The enemy thought he had you. On June 30th, the world will see what you've been laboring to bring forth. The breakthrough you've been carrying in your spirit like a baby in the womb is about to crown. The vision that's been kicking and moving inside your soul is about to take its first breath. The calling that's been growing in the secret place of your heart is about to open its eyes and look at the world for the first time. And in that sacred space, there's a law higher than accusation. There's a blood that speaks louder than evidence. There's a love that overrules every legal argument hell could ever construct. The verdict came down like thunder. Not guilty, more than not guilty, chosen, called, crowned. You felt it, didn't you? That moment when the weight lifted off your shoulders, when the spiritual pressure that had been crushing you for months suddenly evaporated? That wasn't coincidence. That was the moment heaven's gavel fell in your favor. The enemy had been operating under an old warrant, trying to execute judgment that had already been overturned. But the Supreme Court of the universe had spoken. The case was closed, the file was sealed, and June 30th, that's your public release date after your private trial. They brought evidence, but the blood erased the file. See, angels don't respond to emotions. They don't move because you're crying or because you're desperate. Angels move when verdicts are rendered. They move when divine orders are issued. They move when heaven says, "It is finished." And chosen one, heaven has spoken over your life. For too long, you've been living under the shadow of accusations that had no legal standing in the courts of eternity. The whispers that told you that you were too broken, too old, too scarred, too late. Those were the desperate lies of a defeated prosecutor who knew his case was falling apart. But God doesn't operate on the enemy's timeline. He doesn't rush to judgment. He lets the accusations pile up, lets the evidence mount, lets the enemy think he's winning. And then, in one divine moment, he reveals the trump card that silences every voice of condemnation. The blood, the cross, the resurrection. Case dismissed. You've been walking around like a defendant, waiting for sentencing, when all along you were an heir, waiting for your inheritance. You've been carrying guilt that was never yours to bear, shame that was never yours to own, fear that was never yours to entertain. The courtroom of heaven has closed the case. You are cleared for launch. They thought your silence meant surrender. They miscalculated. Your silence wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. While they were shouting accusations, you were learning to listen for heaven's verdict. While they were presenting evidence, you were presenting your heart. While they were building cases, you were building character. And God saw it all. He saw every tear you cried in secret. He recorded every prayer you whispered in the dark. He documented every moment you chose faith over fear, hope over hatred, love over revenge. And all of that became evidence in your favor, evidence that the enemy never saw coming. You didn't fight fire with fire. You transcended the battlefield entirely. You didn't argue your case in the court of public opinion. You let heaven be your attorney. You didn't defend yourself to people who were never qualified to judge you. You trusted the one whose opinion was the only one that mattered. And now the verdict is in. The enemy has been overruled. The accusations have been silenced. The case has been closed. June 30th isn't just another day on your calendar. It's your emancipation proclamation. It's the day heaven's verdict goes public. It's the day the spiritual realm recognizes what the divine court has already declared. You are free, you are chosen, you are unstoppable. The angels have been given their marching orders. The forces of darkness have been served their eviction notice. The principalities and powers that thought they had jurisdiction over your life have been informed that their authority has been revoked. You are cleared for takeoff. Can you feel it? That shift in the atmosphere around you? That sense that something fundamental has changed in the spiritual realm? That's not your imagination. That's the sound of heaven's gavel echoing through eternity. The trial that you didn't know was happening has ended. The verdict that you didn't know was being deliberated has been announced. The freedom that you didn't know was being processed has been granted. And now, chosen one, you don't walk like someone under investigation. You walk like someone under divine protection. You don't speak like someone defending their right to exist. You speak like someone whose existence has been validated by the highest court in the universe. Hell brought evidence, but the blood erased the file. They thought they had documentation, but covenant trumps condemnation every time. They thought they had precedent, but mercy overrules justice when love presides as judge. They thought they had a case, but grace doesn't argue, it simply declares. And the declaration over your life is clear. Guilty of being beloved, convicted of being chosen, sentenced to a lifetime of divine favor. The courtroom of heaven has closed the case. You are cleared for launch. And June 30th? That's when the world finds out what heaven already knows. You were never on trial. You were being prepared for triumph. They thought fear would break you. It backfired. You know what happened instead? Every attack they launched became the very foundation of your strength. Every whisper in the dark became the fuel for your fire. Every sleepless night became a prayer vigil that moved heaven itself. They didn't break you, chosen one, they accidentally forged you. But here's what they never saw coming. Here's what made hell itself take a step back and recalculate. When you stopped fighting their fights and started walking in your authority, everything shifted. Can you feel it? That shift in the atmosphere around you? That sense that something fundamental has changed in the spiritual realm? That's not your imagination. That's the sound of heaven's gavel echoing through eternity. The trial that you didn't know was happening has ended. The verdict that you didn't know was being deliberated has been announced. The freedom that you didn't know was being processed has been granted. And now, chosen one, you don't walk like someone under investigation. And when the creator of the universe stands behind you, everything in front of you becomes manageable. Beloved chosen one, as we come to the end of this divine encounter, I want you to hold these truths close to your heart, like precious stones that can never be stolen from you. Remember this, June 30th is not just a date, it's your divine appointment with destiny. You carry the shadow of the Almighty, and in that shadow, no curse survives. When God stands behind you, they cannot touch you. These are not empty words or wishful thinking. These are spiritual laws written in the very fabric of heaven itself. Remember that every attack you've endured was actually forging you into the warrior you are today. Every sleepless night was a prayer vigil that moved heaven. Every tear you shed watered the ground for your coming harvest. You didn't just survive, you overcame. And that overcoming spirit is still alive and active within you right now. But hear me clearly, dear friend, you are not walking this path alone. The same God who parted the Red Sea, who made the sun stand still, who raised the dead, is the same God working in your life today. His power hasn't diminished, His love hasn't wavered, His promises haven't expired. He is as faithful today as He was yesterday, and He will be faithful tomorrow. And there's something beautiful I want you to know. There's a community of believers right here, right now, ready to stand with you in prayer. You're not the only chosen one feeling the weight of this calling. You're part of a family of faith that spans the globe, united by the same Spirit, empowered by the same God, walking toward the same victorious destiny. Angels move when verdicts are rendered. They move when divine orders are issued. They move when heaven says, "It is finished." And chosen one, heaven has spoken over your life. For too long, you've been living under the shadow of accusations that had no legal standing in the courts of eternity. The whispers that told you that you were too broken, too old, too scarred, too late, those were the desperate lies of a defeated prosecutor who knew his case was falling apart. If this message has stirred something in your spirit, if you felt the Holy Spirit speaking directly to your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Tell us how God is moving in your life. Ask for prayer if you need it, because we're here for you. And please, share this message with someone who needs to hear it. There's someone in your life, maybe someone you haven't thought of in years, who desperately needs to know they're chosen, they're loved, and they're not forgotten. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Not for me, but because God wants to keep speaking to you, and I don't want you to miss a single word He has for your life. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart, for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for your faithfulness, your attention, your open heart. Thank you for being brave enough to believe that God still speaks, still moves, still performs miracles in the lives of those who love Him. Now, let me pray for you, and I want you to imagine that I'm placing my hand on your shoulder, speaking these words directly over your life. Heavenly Father, Lord of all creation, Master of time and eternity, I come before your throne right now on behalf of every precious soul who has heard this message. These are not strangers to you, Lord, these are your children, your chosen ones, the ones you've called by name before the foundation of the world. Father, I pray for supernatural strength to flood their weary bodies. I pray for divine peace to settle over their anxious minds. I pray for holy boldness to rise up in their spirits. Where they have been weak, make them strong. Where they have been fearful, fill them with courage. Where they have been discouraged, renew their hope. Lord, I specifically lift up June 30th before you. As this appointed time approaches, I pray you would prepare their hearts, align their spirits, and surround them with your protection. Let every scheme of the enemy fail. Let every door you want opened be opened. Let every blessing you have planned be released. Let them feel your presence so strongly that doubt cannot take root and fear cannot find a foothold. God, heal their broken hearts, restore their shattered dreams, breathe life into their dry bones. Remind them that you are not finished with their story, that the best chapters are still being written. Show them that their pain has purpose, their struggles have meaning, and their victory is guaranteed because you already won it for them. I pray for their families, Lord. Protect their children and grandchildren. Bless their relationships. Provide for their needs. Give them wisdom in every decision and favor in every circumstance. Let them be a blessing everywhere they go and to everyone they meet. And Father, as they go forward from this moment, remind them daily that they are loved, they are chosen, they are precious in your sight. When the enemy whispers lies, let your truth speak louder. When circumstances look impossible, remind them that you specialize in impossibilities. When they feel alone, manifest your presence in ways they cannot deny. Cover them with the blood of Jesus, seal them with your spirit, mark them for blessing, breakthrough, and victory. Let every person who encounters them see you in their eyes, hear you in their voice, and feel you in their presence. In the mighty, matchless, all-powerful name of Jesus Christ, I speak peace over their nights and purpose over their days. I declare that they are more than conquerors, that they can do all things through Christ who strengthens them, and that nothing, absolutely nothing, can separate them from your love. Thank you, Father, for hearing this prayer. Thank you for answering even before we asked. Thank you for loving them with an everlasting love, and for being faithful to complete the good work you began in them. In Jesus' precious and holy name, Amen. May the peace of God that surpasses all understanding guard your heart and mind in Christ Jesus. Go forward, beloved chosen one. June 30th is coming, and you are ready. You are not alone. You are loved. You are chosen. Until we meet again, keep believing, keep trusting, and keep shining your light. God bless you abundantly.